Spirituality is the journey of understanding and aligning oneself with the divine, where progress is measured by the depth of one's connection with God. Hello, listeners. Welcome to yet another episode of Voices of Impact. And today we have with us Jack Briggs, the president and CEO of Springs Rescue Mission, who leads Southern Colorado's largest homeless shelter and addiction recovery program. Before this role, he served as Vice President for Global Resiliency and Security at NYU, overseeing emergency management and security at NYU's campuses worldwide. With over 30 years in the US Air Force, retiring as Major General, Jack brings extensive leadership experience to his current position. On behalf of TALRadio, we extend a warm welcome to Jack Briggs. Thank you, sir, for this opportunity to interview you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I am so impressed with what TAL and the foundation is doing and in elevating voices that are making trying to at least make a difference with our communities and with people.
So you have had a stellar career and you have served as a leader in all aspects of your career. And I'm really interested to know what drew you to this particular cause.
Yeah. So first of all, I think it's a noble cause, and so I try to do things that are good. But when I was young, I had a sibling who was affected by addiction and searching for places to live and being homeless at times. And unfortunately, she passed away back in the late 80s. So I was a young kid and I saw that happen, and it affected me, obviously, as a family member. And as I went throughout my military career and my career in higher education, I was always kind of connected to this idea that those folks in need could be supported better somehow. I wasn't sure how, but somehow. And so when the opportunity came to come to the rescue mission, I was eager to do it.
And one of the interesting aspect of in Springs Rescue Mission, what I've seen is you have been incentivizing homelessness, and even the act of asking a person's name is an act of transaction. And I found that concept to be very interesting, and I would like to know more about it.
Sure. So the number one question that I get when when people find out what I do is they say, "Hey, Jack, when I pull up to a stoplight and there's somebody holding a sign, maybe says hungry or homeless or something like that, what do I do?" Because that's a hard moment, right? You see somebody in need and you feel like I should do something here. Well, unfortunately, that feeling is probably driven more by guilt, your guilt, than anything else. And so and what you're probably going to do at this moment is probably do something so that you don't feel as guilty. And that really doesn't change the situation for the individual. But what could? And instead of just maybe rolling down your window and handing them some water or a granola bar, ask them their name. No one ever asks a homeless person their name. I would encourage your listeners, try it once and see what happens. Because they'll look at you like, what? What do you mean? And you say, "No, I want to know your name. My name's Jack." And they'll say, "Well, my name's Mary." And then you could say, "It's nice to meet you, Mary." At that moment, and that split moment, you see them as a person, not as the person with a sign on the street corner, but just as a person. And that's very rare. That's very rare for folks that are on the street to be seen as a person. And so when you do that, you lower the barrier of power between yourself and them. And when you even that power base up, you might even be able to have a conversation with them like, "Hey, I see you're hungry, or you have a sign, or you have a dog or something. Have you thought about getting some help?" And then you'd have to know, maybe, is there a rescue mission in your town, or is there some sort of service provider in your town that can help you? Have you thought about going there? because they could probably help you with anything that's on your sign: work, health, food, sleep, veterans, variety of different things. It's when you break down that barrier of power, you can actually start to see somebody for who they are. And that's a very powerful moment. I've had clients who see me at the rescue mission, and they'll come up to me and say, "You don't remember me, but a year ago, 6 months ago, you stopped and you asked me my name."
Wow.
And no one had done that. I'm like, "Yeah, that's because you matter. You count." Right?
It's a beautiful way to see, and I think every person deserves to be treated that way. To be, we should go ahead and ask them their name so that you establish that connect and they feel that they belong. And I have, and it's also in a way an act of spirituality as well, because, in that moment, you all belong to this world and you all belong to a
Mm-hmm.
person who's above you. And I understand that spirituality is essential in Spring's rescue mission as well. And you
Yeah.
consider that to be very, very crucial for someone's physical and mental well
Mm-hmm.
being in the long run.
Yes.
So, how do you integrate it into the program?
Well, let me sort of give you maybe an analogy about why spiritual health is important for someone. And now we're a Christian faith-based organization, but let me just talk about spirituality in general. Okay. And this is what I mean by that. There's physical health, there's mental health, there's behavioral health. And behavioral health are those things like addictions. And then there's spiritual health. There's four real components to somebody's personal health. And if you get them out of balance, you really are not going to be as healthy as you can be. And spiritual health is included. And I'll give you this little analogy. Imagine you're sitting in a boat, okay? And you see that there's a storm coming, and you have some ropes in the boat, uh, and you tie the ropes off to the boat and then to yourself in the boat, because that's going to be your anchor. You are going to be the anchor in this storm. Unfortunately, in a lot of cases, the storms are so big that it will collapse the boat and it'll sink. If, on the other hand, you took those ropes and you tied them to the dock, the immovable dock that's not going to change, now when the storm comes, you're not relying on just yourself to weather that mental health storm or that physical health storm. You are now anchored to something that you can rely on. That's spiritual health, because there are going to be times when it's hard to rely on yourself to make it through, and you're going to need that, whether it's a faith, a spirituality that says, I'm connected to something other than just myself. And we try to ingrain that in all of our programming that we do, to help our clients understand that they're not alone, right? They're not alone in this struggle. Now, there are people around them while they're going through the struggle, but once they get healthy physically, and maybe they find a place to live, then they're not addicted anymore. Maybe out there at their new apartment, a struggle happens. And if they're not anchored outside of just themselves, often they relapse. And that's why we try to ingrain these moments in their transition from addiction and homelessness back to sobriety and being housed. We give them tools along the way in their programming, so that when the storms happen, they know, I'm tied off to something other than just myself.
Yeah. It's a beautiful way to say that you need to look into yourself and find
Mm-hmm.
that within you and rely on yourself to get yourself to a better space. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what spirituality stands for, to kind of look within you, find God within you, and kind of lead yourself to a better space.
Yeah, it takes time, and it takes a vulnerability. right? Being vulnerable, that you don't have all the answers, but that's okay. That you can and you won't do that just simply by wishing it. You've got to have conversations. You've got to think about it. You have to be presented opportunities to maybe be challenged, and we do that. We present opportunities for our clients to be challenged, so that and they're small challenges at first, so that they know they can do a little challenge, and then they can do a bigger one, and they can do a bigger one, and they can do a bigger one, and that way we bring them along through that process, so that by the time they get to the end of the program, they feel comfortable as themselves, whoever they are, and they feel like they're connected, not just to their community, but to everything around them. And that's where they can find support.
And in their environment, they seek support as well once they are out of the program.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're always there for them. We never stop.
Yeah, because when you say that you never stop, I'm reminded of the transitional housing program as well, because you help them transition as well. Could you tell a bit more about that?
Sure. So when you think about somebody that's been unhoused or homeless for a period of time, their being housed skills atrophy. They 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 lose a lot of the momentum of how do you live somewhere? How do you pay your bills? How do you clean your apartment? How do you pay for the things that you need versus the things that you want? You have to balance all of these things. And if we were to just to take somebody off the street and put them in an apartment or a house, they really aren't housing ready. And so what we do is we spend time with them redeveloping those skills. Like, how do you cook for yourself? How do you shop for yourself? How do you pay the bills? How do you stay ahead of some of the things that we know it's going to happen each month? And what we do, and once we're pretty confident that somebody has gone through most of the program, they go into what's called transitional housing. And transitional housing is still us. It's still branded to the rescue mission, but they have much more independence. So they have an opportunity to try things out, and we're there just in case it doesn't work out. This is that sort of lily pad, if you will, between being unhoused and being back in community. And it gives them a trial time to really hone their skills. So we'll go in and we have, it's amazing to see the people that we have who work here. We have folks who used to have cleaning businesses, and now they come to work for us. They cleaned other people's homes. Well, now they teach our clients how to clean their own apartment. Like, how do you do that? And what are you going to need, and what aren't you going to need, right? And it's so amazing to watch, because all of a sudden people gain confidence. I can take care of myself, right? That moment when it clicks in their head is, I can do this. It's magic. It is absolutely magic when we see that happen.
It's so brilliant that you start with basic life skills like cooking and cleaning, and then having this concept of transitional housing, and you really mean it when you say that you are there with them throughout the process.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
I'm really what piques my interest is, are there some really heart-touching success stories that you are really proud of? Would you like to share that with us?
oh gosh, there's so many. There's a classic story. We had a man who he was camping out by himself, and the police said, "Hey, man, you can't stay here. This is dangerous." And he said, "Well, where am I supposed to go?" And they said, "Why don't you go to the rescue mission?" He's like, "I don't want to go there." They said, "Just give it a try. Just give it a try." So he did. He came to us. He was addicted to drugs, alcohol. He hadn't worked in probably 5 years, more than that, probably. Now that I think of it, he was by himself. His name was Cowboy, but that wasn't his name. His name was Thomas. And so we said, "Thomas, come on in, man." And over the next 18 months, he gets sober. he starts getting into our work, vocational training, to relearn the skills of showing up on time, being clean, understanding how to take direction, understanding how to give feedback and get feedback, understand how to ask questions about how to use equipment. 18 months later, he graduates from our program and he starts to work in the transportation department in our city.
Oh.
And after about a year of doing that, he said, I'd like to go back to the rescue mission because I know a lot of the clients because I lived out on the street with them. I think I can be helpful. So he came back and he runs our day center now. And when new clients come in, they're like, hey, cowboy. And he goes, no, my name's Thomas. Right.
Wow.
You know, it's that kind of story, right? Where you see the complete transformation. It's almost like they take this old, worthless skin off, right? That's holding them back, and they move forward. And that's what is magic. I'll tell you another one, which is very heartwarming for me, is at the end of our addiction recovery program for our men and women, we have a graduation ceremony for them, and everybody comes and we celebrate what they do. But they'll always invite their families. If their families are anywhere nearby, they'll invite their families. And I always watch the moms. I watch the moms because they can't talk. They can't come up with words because these moms have been, begging God to keep their son or daughter just alive, not out of jail, not addicted, just alive. And their little boy or girl is back, sober, working in an apartment, maybe back with their own family and kids. And I watch the moms, and every time I see that, I think that's the closest version on earth to God's never-ending love, because that's a mom never-ending love. And I get to watch it, and I'm just, I say, let's do that again, because that's pretty awesome.
Just watching a mother choke with emotion to see her son and daughter get better. It's such a beautiful space to be.
It is. It's holy. It is a holy moment when that happens, and that young man or woman has done it. They've done the work. We don't do it for them. And if they're not ready to graduate, they're not ready to graduate, and we tell them that. But when they are, it's pretty special.
When you're talking about graduation, I am interested to know what is the process that they go through to graduate.
Yeah, it's a 7-phase process. It's long,
and it's flexible.
And they start off. Oh yes, because fortunately or unfortunately, I mean, it's people, and they'll progress to a certain level, then they'll relapse a little bit, and they'll fall back, and then they'll do it. And it may take 2 or 3 times to really get it to sink in, because initially folks that come to us say, yeah, I got this. After the first month, they're like, I got this. This is going to be easy. And then month 2 and month 3 roll around, and it feels like the carpet is pulled out from underneath their feet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They can't gut it out anymore. They got to get real with themselves. What got me into this situation? What decisions did I make? Some of them are not my fault. I will tell you that a lot of people that are addicted and on the streets, they had the most horrific childhoods that you could imagine. Horrific. And they've suppressed that, and they've done it with drugs, and they've done it with behavior, because their head just can't absorb it, and their heart can't absorb it because it was so awful, tragic. So it takes some time to unpeel that, to show somebody that they're safe. We're not going to hurt them, that they can tell us the truth, and we're still going to love them regardless. You can't make us not love you. You can't, right? We want to know the truth, because it's going to help you to take that next step in your life. And so that's a lot of what we do, is we create that place where people can be honest and start the very hard work of coming out of this darkness that they've had to deal with, even since they were, 8 years old.
I can't imagine what they would be going through in that particular moment, to be welcome to this and, to go through the program while carrying so much of emotional burden within them. But like you said before, like tethering them, using spirituality as a tether, it probably helps them navigate through the program in a better manner.
It
And what
does. But I was just going to say, I'll tell you another thing that it's the little things. It's the very little things to start with. So I talked about just saying somebody's name back to them. But here's another one. When you come to us, the first day, I mean, you're addicted, you've been living on the streets for years. You come to us, we want to do your laundry for you. We do it for you. You bring us your laundry and we clean it. And we give you new clothes so that you can take a shower. And while you're taking a shower and putting your new clothes on, we clean your older clothes for you. We do that for 4 reasons. The first one is, if we just let the clients kind of fight over the machines, that wouldn't be good. The second one is, if you've ever done laundry, but you don't know what you're doing, a little soap is good. So a lot of soap is going to be better, right? And they'll break the machines. There's suds everywhere, right? The third one is we're looking for, maybe they've tried to sneak in things like a razor or a syringe or something like that. And we just want to make sure that everybody's safe. But the real reason we do it is this. People that live on the streets live in a world where no one keeps their promise. No one. It's always transactional. It's always, if I do this, you'll do that. If you do that, I'll do this. But people don't keep their promises. They steal from each other. They try to take advantage of each other. So when we say we promise we'll clean your laundry for you and we'll give it back to you cleaner than you gave it to us, and we keep that promise, I've had people walk up to me and say, Jack, that's the first promise somebody's kept in I don't know how long. You promise other things. Will you keep those promises? And I said, if we make a promise, we'll keep it. Now, you may have to do some work with us to make that promise happen, but we won't turn our back on you. And sometimes when it's too hard, we'll put our hand on your back and help you with the momentum, or we'll hold your hope for you, because sometimes you feel hopeless. Well, we'll hold it for you and we'll give it back when you're ready. And these are the kinds of things to build this idea of trust, because trust is the thing that's going to allow us to then have those conversations and to do the assessment of addiction and those sorts of things.
I'm just thinking that just doing the laundry is a tiny act of kindness. And imagine the impact it has. Like, you're giving hope, you're giving them trust, and that serves as guidance for them.
Yeah. And also, people will tell us, well, why, if you're giving them new clothes, why do you give them their old clothes back? And my answer is a couple of things. One, it's their stuff, right? I want them to know that they can have stuff and it's okay, right? But the other thing is, often we in Western society in particular, if we think something's old and not very good, we throw it away. And a lot of these people have been thrown away, right? And when we give them back clothes that needed to be cleaned, we've restored the usefulness of those clothes. Just like we can, because they have worth. And we can restore, the clients, and again, back to the spiritual sort of aspect of it, that those clients can be restored as well. If their clothes can be restored, they can be restored, right? And they're not throwaways. They're real people and they matter and they have worth. And that's where, so your clothes have worth and we want to make them good again. And we can do that with you too.
No, it's the act of giving someone a little,
hope.
Yes, a little bit of hope, a little bit of promise, a little bit of trust. Yeah. And that is the secret sauce for transformation.
It is. It really is. Because people say, I don't trust anybody, but you guys seem like I can trust you. It's like, yeah, you can.
And another thing that I'm really curious about is how do you manage? You have like almost 800 people coming to your
Hmm.
mission every day. On a single day, you have more than 800 people who are coming. And how do you manage this? Like, you have programs running parallelly for so many people, and you need to
Hmm.
ensure the graduation. So, how do you manage this?
Well, one of the other principles besides transactions is incentives. So we help to incentivize our clients to be in paths, wherever that path might be best for them.
Mhm.
But the third principle is partnerships. So we have over 50 different organizations that aren't us. They are other organizations in town that we provide space to so that they can do what they do best. If the rescue mission tried to solve all the problems for all of those people, we couldn't do it. We just don't have, no one could do that. But if you bring all the partners in town to one place, the clients can come to one place and they can get specialized attention. So maybe it's somebody who uh, needs dental care. So
Yeah.
we have dentists. Maybe it's somebody who needs um, help with their feet. Teeth and feet for folks on the street is really hard. And so we do foot clinics with one of the local hospitals, training hospitals, to to do this to help them. So first of all, they wash the feet of the homeless. Now, as a faith organization, we really like that. But they also do, and podiatrists will look at the feet and say, okay, this needs to be done. And then we have folks that make specialized shoes or braces or something. They'll be there at the same time. And that little team will say to this individual, we're going to make you some new shoes because you're missing so many toes from frostbite. And then a week later, the shoes show up and we give them to the client. And you should see them. It's like Christmas every week because we give them things that make their lives better, right? So it's little partnerships all over the city that help us do that. And we don't have to solve the problem ourselves as the rescue mission. We can point clients in the direction of an expert that's really good at that. And we do that all day long. That's how we kind of manage it. We also have a great staff. I have to be honest with you. The staff is just, they're compassionate, but they're disciplined. They're after the safety and security of our clients every day. They watch out to make sure that nobody's being taken advantage of, and it builds this community of support, not just from our organization, but from all the organizations around town.
So the real reason for success for Springs Rescue Mission is collaborating with a lot of organizations and guiding them to the right
Absolutely.
space. The,
Absolutely. Think of it this way. If if we took all 50 of those partners and spread them out around the city, that would mean a client would have to try to navigate all over the city to find those things that they need. If they come here, all the clients can come here. Well, if all the clients come here, then other partners will want to come also because the clients are here.
yeah.
Well, now more partners are here, more clients show up. Now that more clients show up, more partners show up. It's actually a little bit of a flywheel of success. It gets better and better the more we do it.
And it's interesting because this is what a leader does, with collaborating with the right resources, getting them to
Mm-hmm.
do the work that you would not be able to do on a day-to-day basis,
Mm-hmm.
and just expanding your resources for all of your clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested to know that you have been a leader in all phases of life. So, what is the difference you feel in the kind of leadership role you had previously in your career and at this point of time? What is the change that you feel, the shift?
I'm going to be honest with you and say that there's not a lot of change,
Okay.
um, because it's people,
Yeah.
right? And if we think about people, um, sometimes people don't agree with us. I'll be honest with you. You know, we're a faith-based organization, and sometimes people don't like that. I'm like, okay, but let me ask you a different question. Do you think people have worth? Everybody says yes. And I say, you know what? I agree with you. I agree with you that people have worth. Now, we could argue about where we think that worth comes from, but we've already agreed that people have worth. So can we work together to do something for that person? And when people say yes, they realize. I've had people say, you guys are way better than I thought you'd be. And I say to them, you're way better than I thought you'd be. Kind of a joke, right? But it's about people. And it's about the fact that whether I was in the military or when I was in higher education or even today, looking people in the eye, knowing they matter, whether they're successful or not. Um, when you can, when you can really, really get people to trust that you are after their welfare, they will do amazing things, whether that's in the military or in school. Can you go back to when a teacher really made you feel seen and understood and that they believed in you? Those, you could probably think in your mind right now the name of a teacher that did that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
people.
Yes.
It it's people. And so when we think about it that way, it kind of doesn't really matter what the context is. Well, I mean, the industry, I guess, is a better way to say that. What the industry is, it's the same thing. And when we violate that, you can do that for a short period of time. You can violate that trust for a short period of time by just positional power. Like, I'm the general, you have to do this, right? But that doesn't last very long. It doesn't. And it doesn't build capacity. It doesn't build capability in people. It doesn't build a desire for those to serve others. That people become very insular and self narcissistically focused because they're trying to protect themselves from a bad leader, quite frankly, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not a great leader. I'm just a guy who cares about people, right? And that seems to work pretty well for at least the industries that I've been in.
I think the very fact that you care about people and you care about making an eye contact and making them feel seen makes you a phenomenal leader. So I think, and it's not everybody can do that, because when you quoted about the my favorite teacher or the person who made me feel seen, it's all the common factors, just seeing me on the same level as them, and that really builds a relationship, like you had said before. And what would be your advice for a lot of similar organizations like yours who have also been
Yeah.
trying to grow into this capacity? What would your advice
Hmm.
be for them? How should they manage this?
Yeah. So it is very location and culture dependent.
Hmm.
You have to, uh, for me to come into a different city or a different country and say, well, you need to do it this way, right? Is not going to work. That you need to have cultural intelligence, whether that's uh, nationally, ethnically, or even just geographically. The United States is a big state, a big place, lots of different cultures, kind of in one country. And if I were to take our model and just say you have to do it from A to Z exactly like we do it, it wouldn't work because it's not cultural or contextually and culturally appropriate for maybe that part of the country, right? But I will say that the ideas of transaction, incentive, and partnerships is the secret, really sort of things to think about. So let's break that down just a little bit. Um, if you can bring in partners, they can create the incentives of transactions. So if you're good at pulling people in to help it with whatever the grand problem is, and they can focus on their slice of whatever it is, and you can do that in a mutually beneficial way, they will create the incentives that allow for the transactions. And so people ask me, well, how do you start with this? I say start small, and I have a little phrase that I say: slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. And that comes from piloting, being a pilot. So I was a pilot, right? And if you're on your next airplane flight, you don't want the pilot to be like this with his hands. or her hands, you want them to be smooth, right? And that means they're a little slower, but they're smooth. Slow is smooth. And the smoother you are, the faster you'll go to where you're trying to go. So you need to start off with the mindset of, I'm going to be slow in this, but I'm going to be very smooth. I'm going to find out those friction points, whether they're partnership friction points or they're resourcing friction points or their staff friction points or even my own leadership skill friction points. Maybe I need to get training if I'm going to do this, right? And an organization like TAL that's looking to like, how do you train leaders in this space is amazing. I mean, that is a wonderful thing to think maybe we can connect a growing nonprofit leader with some mentorship where they don't have to pay for it. You've just got somebody who's got 30 years of experience that can pour into that person and help them, right? To recognize where the friction points are so that then you're smoother and you'll accelerate because people have more confidence in you. They'll see you're a success, and people love to celebrate success and they love to support success, which is great.
Absolutely. And this is going to be my new favorite quote. To,
Slow is smooth
slow
and
is
smooth
smooth
is
and
fast.
smooth fast. This is going to
Yeah.
be my new favorite quote. And when you talk about Touch Life Foundation, I would like to also know that has giving you a platform or for organizations similar to yours, giving you a platform, is it imperative to get more contacts, to get more collaborations, and is visibility really important at this point of time?
Of course, there's just the cacophony of attention seeking, right? Everybody's seeking an individual's attention, whether it's marketing or it's social media or all these things. So just recently, within the last, I want to say month, maybe a little bit more than a month. Yeah, because we're in March now. I was on Kyle's platform for when I spoke up in Denver, and so I just passed that along on my social media. I got hundreds of people. Hey, tell me more, right? And so that's all I'm asking for is the opportunity to explain. I'm not asking people to give me money. I'm not asking people to, drop everything and run over and help us. I'm asking people, show me more, right? Well, what does that mean? How do you do that? Or, why don't you do it this way? Or, have those conversations. And so all of a sudden, I'm trying to figure out how to answer all these things, but that's fine. That's a good thing, right? That's a good problem to have when people are interested. So platforming, I think through TAL, because it was effective, I think is one of the ways where it's making a difference with, and there were so many good organizations at that conference that, I was kind of like, wow, in fact, there were a couple in Colorado Springs where I live that I reached out to afterwards and said, hey, we should be doing more stuff together because that's that partnership piece, right? So there's multi layers of good, if you will.
That's a beautiful way to, kind of tell that cross collaboration. We have already discussed about cross collaboration, and collaboration brings in a lot of positive effect, and the impact
Mm-hmm.
is much larger when you're collaborating. And I think this
Mm-hmm.
is a perfect example for that. And with that, we can come to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for this conversation. And it has been so good to know about what your organization has been doing and what you have been doing as a leader. And so we just wanted to thank you once again for agreeing for this. So thank
Oh,
you
no,
so
it's a
much, Jack.
privilege. It's a privilege to talk with you all. And again, I am a big fan of TAL and what the foundation's doing. And I certainly respect how difficult these things are, but your willingness to step into that it shows a real compassionate and yet smart approach. So I really like that.
That's mainly because we want organization like yours to shine, because they are all worthy to be in the news. They are all worthy to be talked about. More people should be talking about you, because we live in a world which is going through so much of crisis on a
Mm,
day-to-day basis, and people are
mm.
suffering everywhere. And we need organizations like you, which stands for hope, for, just love, and we want you to
Yeah.
shine, we want you to grow, and we want you to keep doing the best you can, and we are so
J-
happy.
j- One last thing, and I got to get up
Yeah.
out of my chair, but I'll be right back.
Yes. Yeah.
I should have had this ready. Like
Oh, okay.
that's how much of a not a professional I am at this. So we wrote a book. It's called
uh,
Meeting Homelessness with Hope. I don't know if I can take this off. Uh, it's hard to see. Oh, dang
yeah,
it.
because the
So
background is blurred a bit.
yeah, it's called Meeting Homelessness with Hope. To figure out how to take the background off, but it's probably too late to do that. But anyway, we wrote a book, and the reason we wrote the book is because people keep asking us, how do you guys do this? So we wrote a book. It's called Meeting Homelessness with Hope. All the proceeds go back to the rescue mission. It has nothing to do with me, but it really lays out in a very approachable way, and it's also an Audible. If people want to learn more about how we do this, they'll get a story that they can listen to, or they get a story that they can read about a kind of a pretend client who's a combination of a bunch of different clients as they go through the program. But also we intersperse information about homelessness, addiction, poverty into the story so that people learn as well. And it's Meeting Homelessness with Hope. And if you can't remember that, Jack Briggs on either Google or Amazon or on Audible, and it'll pop up and you'll see it.
What an amazing resource for anyone who wants to do good. And thank you
Yeah,
so much,
thank you.
Jack, thanks you for bringing in a resource which has contains all the information that is required and that you've been doing, because this is good for people who want to join the program, who know someone who wants to join the program, and even for people who are also trying to emulate what you're doing in your organization.
Yeah,
And what a
yeah,
commendable step to, bring out something like that.
yeah. And if
And
people have questions, they can reach out to us because we want to help.
yes, yes. So,
All right.
listeners, I really urge you to go and buy the book and get an understanding of what Jack and Spring Rescue Mission has been doing for over so many years, more than a decade. And
Yep.
I would urge you to go read it and understand it, and try to reach out to Jack if you have questions
Yeah.
and if you have someone to help. So with that, we come to
It's
the
good too.
end of the episode. And thank you so much,
Thank you.
Jack, because it was so insightful and you shared so many things to think about. Because especially my favorite was a quote which I'll probably put on my Instagram bio today. so
Okay.
so thank you
That's
so
great.
much for that.
All right.
So it was really fun talking to you.
Fun to
So
talk to you
thank you,
too.
listeners. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Voices of Impact. And until next time, this is your host Pavithra Krishnakumar signing off.